And what a people may not decree for itself can even less be decreed for them by a monarch, for his law-giving authority rests on his uniting the general public will in his own. I think that Kant is saying that if people can't make a decision for themselves, it's worse for a king to make that decision for them. If he only sees to it that all true or alleged improvement stands together with civil order, he can leave it to his subjects to do what they find necessary for their spiritual welfare. I think what's going on here is that he's saying the monarch's job is just to maintain civil order and not to interfere with people's personal beliefs. This is not his concern, though it is incumbent on him to prevent one of them from violently hindering another in determining and promoting this welfare to the best of his ability. In this, he's saying that the monarch should stay out of religious or personal matters, but to also make sure that no one is pressuring others from pursuing their own beliefs. To meddle in these matters lowers his own majesty, since the writings in which subjects seek to present their views, he may evaluate his own governance. This part reminds me of the idea that leaders are judged by how their stance on freedom is. He could be saying that a ruler loses respect when they try to control people's private beliefs instead of letting them express their thoughts freely. He can do this when, with deepest understanding, he lays upon himself the reproach, Caesar non super grammaticos. He he said that, and I didn't really understand what it means, but maybe it's suggesting that even powerful leaders should be open to criticism or correction. Far more does he injure his own majesty when he degrades his supreme power by supporting the ecclesiastical despotism of some tyrants in his state over his other subjects. I think what's happening here is that Kant is criticizing rulers who use their power to support oppressive leaders. He sees that as like an event, even worse abuse of authority. If we are asked, do we now live in an enlightened age? The answer is no. No, we do not live in an age of enlightenment. I think that when he said the enlightened age and age of enlightenment, he meant that we haven't really fully reached enlightenment yet, and it's a work in progress. As things now stand, much is lacking which prevents men from being or easily becoming capable of correctly using their own reason in religious matters with assurance and free from outside direction. The speaker is saying that people still struggle to think independently in religious matters because things like lack of education are at play. But on the other hand, we have clear indications that the field has now been opened wherein men may freely deal with these things, and that the obstacles in general enlightenment or the release of self-imposed tutelage are gradually being reduced. And I think that here he is optimistic because people are starting to overcome the barriers and have more opportunities. In this respect, this is the age of enlightenment, or the century of Frederick. This part reminds me of how Kant references Frederick the Great as an example of an enlightened ruler because of how similar their ideas really were. A prince who does not find it unworthy of himself to state that he holds it to be his duty to prescribe nothing to men in religious matters, but to give them complete freedom, while renouncing the haughty name of tolerance, in himself enlightened and deserves to be esteemed by the grateful word and posterity as the first, at least from the side of government, who divested the human race of its tutelage and left each man free to make use of his reason in matters of conscience. Here I think he's saying that an enlightened ruler doesn't interfere in religion at all, and instead they try to let people have freedom, and this kind of ruler helps society move forward towards enlightenment. Under him, vulnerable ecclesiastics are allowed in the role of scholars and without infringing on their official duties, freely to submit for public testing for their judgments and views which here and there diverge from the established symbol. This part confused me a little bit because I don't know what the established symbol really means, but it seems like he's saying that religious leaders should have freedom to share their opinions without being judged. And an even greater freedom is enjoyed by those who are restricted by no official duties, and I believe that this means that people who aren't tied to official roles have more freedom to express their thoughts and ideas because it's quote-unquote safer. The spirit of freedom spreads beyond this land, even to those in which it must struggle with external obstacles erected by a government which misunderstands its own interest. I wonder why can't thinks governments resist freedom when it seems like he believes it's in their own interest to let it best interest to let it happen. Maybe he thinks rulers are trying to hang on to control, and that's what causes that behavior. For an example gives evidence to such a government that in freedom, this is not the last cause for concern about public peace and the stability of the community. And I think here he's saying that freedom doesn't lead to chaos, it can actually promote peace and stability. Men work themselves gradually out of barbarity if only intentional artifices are not made to hold them in it. And this part reminds me of the idea that progress happens naturally, and he seems to believe that humanity has the ability to improve.